Imagine a world where one man's dream could turn a simple mouse into a global icon and a sketch into a kingdom of magic. Welcome to the story of Walt Disney, the dreamer who didn't just build a brand, but created an entire universe of wonder. In today's journey, we'll uncover how he turned imagination into legacy and setbacks into stepping stones for greatness. If you're inspired by visionaries who changed the world, this is the place for you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a magical moment with us. Walt Elias Disney was born on December 5, 1901, in a modest home in Chicago, Illinois, to Elias and Flora Disney. The fourth of 5 children, Walt grew up in a household that valued hard work and perseverance, but also one where creativity had to fight for room to grow. His father, Elias, was a stern and practical man who moved the family frequently in pursuit of better opportunities, taking them from Chicago to a farm in Marceline, Missouri, where Walt's young imagination first began to blossom. It was in Marceline that Walt discovered a lifelong love for drawing, inspired by the animals around him and the rural charm of small-town America. Marceline would later serve as the inspiration for Main Street, USA, the nostalgic centerpiece of Disneyland. Even as a boy, Walt displayed a remarkable curiosity and boundless creativity, selling sketches to neighbors and daydreaming about worlds beyond his own. Despite his artistic passions, Walt's early life was far from easy. The Disney family struggled financially, and Walt often worked odd jobs delivering newspapers with his father in the pre-dawn hours, helping out around the farm, and finding small ways to earn a bit of money. Still, his love for drawing never faded. In high school, Walt contributed cartoons to the school newspaper and took night classes at the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts. After lying about his age, Walt joined the Red Cross during World War I and was sent to France, not as a soldier, but as an ambulance driver. His ambulance was famously covered in cartoons he had drawn, and even in war-torn Europe, Walt never lost sight of his artistic calling. Returning home after the war, Walt set out to build a career in art and animation. He moved to Kansas City, Missouri, where he worked at the Pesman Rubin Art Studio, and then at the Kansas City Film Ad Company, where he learned the basics of animation. Eager to innovate, Walt created Laugh-O-Gram Studio in 1922 and began producing short animated fairy tale films with a small team of dreamers. Though the studio was creatively rich, it was financially poor, and in 1923, the business collapsed. Broke but not beaten, Walt packed up and moved to Hollywood, armed with just a suitcase, a reel of unfinished animation, and the unshakable belief that he was meant for more. His brother Roy joined him, and together they launched what would eventually become the Walt Disney Company. Their first major success came with a character named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, created for Universal Pictures. But in a cruel twist, Walt lost the rights to Oswald when the studio took the character and most of his animators without warning. It was a painful betrayal, but also a turning point. On the train ride home from New York after losing Oswald, Walt sketched a mouse on a scrap of paper cheerful, spunky, and filled with personality. That mouse would become Mickey, and the world would never be the same. In 1928, Mickey Mouse made his debut in Steamboat Willie, the first synchronized sound cartoon. Audiences were thrilled, and Walt Disney had arrived. The years that followed were marked by both innovation and risk. Walt wasn't content to repeat himself, he wanted to push the boundaries of animation and storytelling. In 1937, he unveiled Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first full-length animated feature film. Critics called it Disney's folly during production, but Walt pressed on, investing everything he had into the project. When it finally premiered, it was an instant triumph, emotionally moving audiences and redefining what animation could be. Snow White wasn't just a film, it was a promise that dreams could become reality. And from that moment on, Walt Disney was more than a filmmaker, he was a dream builder. Walt Disney's studio experienced a golden surge of creativity and innovation. Flush with confidence and backed by profits, Walt reinvested in the company, building a state-of-the-art animation studio in Burbank, California. This new space allowed his growing team of animators, writers, composers, and technicians to bring stories to life like never before. Yet, the road ahead was not without obstacles. During the production of Pinocchio, Fantasia, and Bambi, the studio faced increasing financial pressure. Though these films were groundbreaking in artistry and ambition, the outbreak of World War II disrupted international distribution, and many of these works initially failed to recoup their costs. Despite these challenges, Walt never compromised his commitment to innovation. He introduced techniques like the multiplane camera to create richer, more dynamic visuals, and pushed his team to explore more emotional storytelling. He wasn't just making cartoons, he was crafting cinematic experiences that touched the heart. During the 1940s, the Disney studio adapted to wartime realities by producing government training and propaganda films, as well as morale-boosting shorts for the public. While these projects kept the studio afloat, Walt longed to return to storytelling that sparked the imagination. After the war, he revitalized the company's focus on feature films with Cinderella in 1950, a glittering success that restored financial stability and reignited the Disney magic. It was followed by a string of beloved classics, including Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, and Sleeping Beauty. As the studio grew, so did Walt's dreams. He began experimenting with live-action films, producing hits like Treasure Island, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Old Yeller, proving that his storytelling talent could transcend animation. But Walt's vision extended far beyond the silver screen. He wanted to create a place where families could escape into his worlds, a physical space filled with adventure, wonder, and joy. This vision led to the birth of Disneyland. Walt was deeply disillusioned with the dirty, impersonal amusement parks of the time. He dreamed of something more immersive, a place where guests could walk into a storybook and become a part of the narrative. In secret, he sent research teams to parks across the country, gathering ideas and learning what worked and what didn't. He even formed a separate company, Weed Enterprises, staffed with designers, engineers, and visionaries he called Imagineers. To fund the project, he struck a groundbreaking deal with ABC to create a weekly television show, Disneyland, which helped build public excitement and provided financial backing. After years of planning and countless challenges, Disneyland opened its gates in Anaheim, California on July 17, 1955. The opening day was chaotic, plagued by a heat wave, overcrowding, and mechanical failures, but for Walt, it was the realization of a dream decades in the making. Walt's personal favorite part of Disneyland was Main Street, USA, modeled after his childhood memories of Marceline. Every corner of the park was infused with his spirit, from the soaring turrets of Sleeping Beauty Castle to the thrilling tracks of the Matterhorn bobsleds. Disneyland wasn't just an amusement park. It was a living storybook, a place where fantasy and reality merged. Walt could often be seen walking through the park, greeting guests, observing reactions, and constantly seeking ways to improve. He viewed Disneyland as a dynamic canvas, always evolving, never truly finished. The success of Disneyland sparked a wave of themed entertainment across the globe and cemented Walt's status not just as an animator or filmmaker, but as a world builder. His relentless imagination had created a new industry, one that combined storytelling, engineering, architecture, and psychology into one unified experience. Even as Disneyland flourished, Walt was already dreaming bigger. He began acquiring large plots of land in Florida under various company names, hiding his identity to avoid price gouging. His goal was not just to build another park, but to create an experimental prototype city of tomorrow, Epcot, a utopian community driven by innovation, technology, and careful urban planning. While developing this vision, Walt continued to oversee studio projects, producing family favorites like Mary Poppins, The Jungle Book, and The Sword in the Stone. His health, however, began to decline. In 1966, Walt was diagnosed with lung cancer. Despite surgery and treatment, the disease progressed rapidly. Still, he worked tirelessly until the very end, sketching ideas for experimental prototype community of tomorrow on the hospital ceiling tiles with his brother Roy. On December 15, 1966, Walt Disney passed away at the age of 65, leaving behind not just a company or a theme park, but a legacy of imagination, courage, and magic that would continue to grow long after his death. While Walt Disney is widely recognized for revolutionizing animation and redefining entertainment through theme parks, his foresight into the power of television was equally visionary. At a time when many in Hollywood viewed television as a threat to cinema, Walt saw it as an opportunity to reach millions of homes and build a personal connection with families. In 1954, he launched the Disneyland television series on ABC, cleverly named to cross-promote his upcoming park. The show was structured into themed segments Adventureland, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, and Frontierland, mirroring the layout of the park and immersing viewers in the spirit of discovery. Walt hosted the show himself, becoming a comforting and familiar figure to audiences, and further cementing the image of Disney as not just a brand, but a trusted family friend. This television presence expanded with the Mickey Mouse Club, an afternoon variety show that introduced the world to Mouseketeers and a new generation of young talent. Through these programs, Walt created an unprecedented synergy between television, movies, and theme parks, setting a standard for multimedia integration that corporations today still try to emulate. Walt Disney's innovations in animation didn't stop with feature films. Under his leadership, the studio became a laboratory of visual storytelling, technical experimentation, and character development. Walt was obsessed with quality and authenticity. He encouraged his animators to study anatomy, motion, and emotion so their characters would move and feel like real beings. He introduced the concept of the story department, where films were painstakingly planned through storyboards, a technique that remains an industry staple. Animation, under Walt's direction, became a serious art form. He hired artists, musicians, and actors from around the world, creating a melting pot of creative talent that pushed boundaries with every new project. His work on Fantasia, in particular, was a daring fusion of classical music and visual imagination. Though the film was not initially a commercial success, it later gained critical acclaim and became a symbol of Walt's commitment to artistic risk. He also pioneered the use of synchronized sound, Technicolor, and stereo recording tools that transformed animation from novelty into immersive cinematic art. What truly set Walt apart was not just his ambition, but his unwavering belief in the impossible. He famously said, "It's kind of fun to do the impossible," and lived by that motto every day. Whether he was inventing a new way to animate falling snow, designing a submarine ride, or envisioning a city that would never be completed, Walt approached each challenge with childlike wonder and relentless determination. He believed in progress, in dreaming big, and in surrounding himself with people who could help bring those dreams to life. Walt's ability to delegate, inspire, and motivate was unmatched. He pushed his team hard, but they respected him for it because he never asked for more than he gave himself. He worked long hours, made bold decisions, and took incredible risks. But he also celebrated creativity and made room for experimentation. Failures didn't deter him, they fueled him. Whether it was the box office disappointment of Fantasia or the opening day chaos at Disneyland, Walt saw obstacles as stepping stones, not roadblocks. Even after his passing in 1966, Walt Disney's influence did not diminish. If anything, his legend grew larger. Roy Disney, honoring his brother's vision, postponed his own retirement to oversee the completion of Walt Disney World in Florida. The park opened in 1971, and Roy renamed it Walt Disney World as a tribute to the man whose dream had laid the foundation. The success of the Florida project opened doors to even more expansion. The Disney Company, guided by the principles Walt instilled, grew into an empire encompassing feature films, television networks, merchandise, publishing, cruise lines, and parks around the globe. Walt's dream of experimental prototype community of tomorrow evolved from a city into a theme park dedicated to technological progress and global culture. But it retained his spirit of innovation and learning. His name became synonymous with wonder, hope, and timeless storytelling. Today, his characters live on in billions of hearts, and his theme parks draw millions of visitors who walk through his carefully imagined worlds and feel the magic he dreamed into existence. Walt Disney didn't just build a kingdom, he built a philosophy of imagination, perseverance, and belief that continues to shape the world. Walt Disney's impact extended far beyond the borders of the United States, creating a global legacy that transformed the entertainment industry and popular culture worldwide. His stories, characters, and theme parks crossed oceans and continents, captivating audiences from Tokyo to Paris to Shanghai. On December 15, 1966, at the age of 65, Walt Disney passed away quietly at St. Joseph's Hospital in Burbank, California. His death marked the end of an era, but also underscored the magnitude of what he had accomplished in his lifetime. The news of his passing sent waves of sorrow throughout the world. Fans, colleagues, and friends mourned the loss of a man whose imagination had touched millions. Walt's legacy, however, was already secured. His brother Roy stepped up to guide the company through this difficult time and carried on Walt's vision by overseeing the completion and opening of Walt Disney World in Florida in 1971, a monumental project that Walt had personally championed but never lived to see finished. And that's the incredible tale of Walt Disney proof that with relentless vision, a sprinkle of courage, and a mountain of persistence, one person really can change the world. From a paper boy with a pencil to the mastermind behind an empire of happiness, his story reminds us all to dream big and keep going. If this inspired you to chase your own version of magic, be sure to subscribe and join our journey through the lives of history's greatest dreamers and doers. Until next time, remember,